let's talk about your role as Willy Loman as a black man. Death of a Salesman is set in 1949, smack in the middle of segregated America. Talk to me about exploring the American dream through that lens.
Well, doing the research on this was amazing. First, I thought of my father, who at 17, drafted, goes into the war, fights in Saipan in the Pacific Theater, fighting fascism around the world, while ultimately living in New Orleans. He returns to the fascism of America. And people always say that sometimes that's a strong word to use, but it has been. It is the American paradox that my father was as much in danger in New Orleans when he returned from the war as he was on the beaches of Saipan. That his life wasn't valued. He could not go wherever he wanted to, and at the same time tried to struggle to achieve that American dream. And that is the paradox that is heightened with the pursuit of the American dream and the American aesthetic in Death of a Salesman, and wondering if that pursuit itself is a disillusionment. There was no evidence for African Americans that the American dream was going to be fairly distributed and allowed to flourish in our community. There had been multitudes of examples of how your life was going to be, at the very least, impacted by obstacles that were going to be placed in front of you, institutionalized obstacles, not random, but specifically to make sure that your pursuit of the American dream was stunted. And so to explore that in the play, I first thought of my parents, who, in spite of everything, believed that they could make a way out of no way. And that is something that has flourished in the American, African American culture, that in spite of everything, we will flourish. We will find a way. So that was the thing that inspired me to make Willy, unlike the other portrayals that had been accustomed and normalized in the history of the play, of this slow dirge to death, this overwhelming weight that the man carries. It inspired me to play the role differently, which was this firebrand of a man who would fight to the very end to make sure he left something for his family and for his sons and his wife. And so it's a different portrayal for me. I also think of the men in my industry who were heroes of mine, Ozzie Davis and Roscoe Lee Brown, James Earl Jones, Sidney Poitier, who, because of the ignorance of racism and cultural exclusion, were never allowed to play the role. No one ever thought to do this interpretation prior and allow them to take on one of the great roles in the American canon. So I owe a great debt to them, and I have a great obligation to them as I step on the stage every night. I think about that as a part of the journey of Willy Loman. He understands that he has a great debt to all of those who have gone before, and he's an orphan. So he's trying to connect to that history and try to connect to that legacy of Black men and women who fought so hard to make sure that he had a footing, was rooted in the earth to kind of bring a better life to his existence. So the Black experience is about that fight. It's about that journey. And that's the legacy that is passed on from the Moses generations to the Joshua generations, time and time again, that make a way out of no way and understand that there are those who do not have your best interest at heart, who will try to institutionalize a violent, ugly racism to do everything to impede you truly living out your full humanity. And that's the thing that I think about when I do the interpretation that we have of this African American Loman family.